Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be part 3 of our RTS series. So let's jump right in. I'm going to just show you guys what we're going to be doing. Um, so here we have a tree with a progress bar. We can now select our characters and go into it. And once our characters go into it, the timer starts. And this also depends on how many characters I have. So it'll go faster or slower depending on how many units are in there. So let me try one more time. Oh, wrong game. So if I only put one of them, it'll go a lot slower. So if I go in, it'll progress slightly slower. Whereas if I put 5, it'll go a lot faster. So let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to do is we have to actually make sure our units can move. So we have to do that. We're going to be doing this using click. So we're going to be doing our right click. So the first thing we have to do is actually add that. So we're going to go to input map, add right click, which I guess I already did. So make sure you have left click and right click, and that is it. So after that, we're going to add 3 variables. First one is going to be on ready. That has to be at on ready var target equal position. So we're going to get our own position. And we're going to have a variable called follow cursor equals false by default. We're also going to have our speed, which is going to be 50 for now. And then down here, we're going to have 2 functions that are just going to be pretty simple. The first one is going to be our input. It's, like that, input event. And then we're just going to check if event is action press. There we go. Right click. We want to check for our right click, so that's how we do it. And then we'll just say follow cursor equals 0. So our goal for this is if our right click goes down, then we're going to make it true. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to copy this and say if released, then we're going to make it false. So that's how we make the follow cursor false. So this gives us 2 things to be able to do. One, let me actually just play. So when I move my characters, I can click one time and they will go to that cursor. But I can also keep clicking and they will keep following my cursor no matter like what I do, as long as I keep clicking down. So that's what that's going to allow us to do. All right, so when follow cursor is true, what do we want to do? Well, we have to make a process function to be able to actually do something. So let's make a process delta function. Nope, I lied. We're going to make a physics process function because this is movement. And then we're going to check for follow cursor. So if follow cursor equals true. I think one thing that's kind of cool is Godot has added or changed the equal stuff. So if you actually do not equal, that changes to like not equal, which is actually really cool. And then you also have like bigger than or equal to, et cetera, et cetera. So that's actually really cool. I really like that Godot has done that. Makes the math look a bit easier. So, all right, next thing I'm going to do is we're also going to check if the character is selected, right? So each unit has its own selected box, right? So if it is selected, then then we'll actually move. So if selected, then we're going to do something. So what are we going to do? We're going to say target equals get global mouse position. And then outside this, we're going to say velocity equals position dot direction to target times speed. One thing to note is that we used to have to define velocity before, but now with the new Godot 4, velocity is already built into the body, whatever you call it, kinematic body. So, okay, and then we'll say if position dot distance to target is, where is it? Greater than 15. I'll explain what this does in a second. I'll explain it by showing it. I think it'll be a little easier. We'll move and slide. Else, then we'll pass one. Okay. Should error. Okay, so the distance to, the reason why we have this. Okay, let's actually add the animation before I explain it because it'll make more sense with the animation. So we're gonna quickly just add a simple animation. We'll have walk. We'll have walk down, and we're just gonna add walk down for now because I think that's the first one. So we'll just key it. No reset curve. Zoom in. Boom, 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 boom. So it'll look like that, I guess. Okay, and then we'll loop it, and then we'll do 0.6, and then walk down. So now what we can do is we can actually make another onReady variable that'll be called animation, and then we're gonna get our animation player. So now we can just do down here next to our target. Whenever we set our target, we'll just say anim dot play walk down. Let me just double check that's right. Yeah. And then we'll also stop our animation. So we'll go stop right there once we are done. So the reason why I wanted to do this to make sense is because essentially once our position is close to, or like the distance to the target is more than 15 pixels, meaning we're close, or if it's not equal to 15 distance, meaning we're like about 15 pixels away from our mouse, then we're going to stop the animation. The reason we're doing this is because if you don't, it'll keep playing the walk animation and it will never stop. So let's play and see what we get. So we select it and we can't move. Why is that? Weird. Let me see what I did wrong. Oh, I know. I forgot to do this last time. So the set selected, we have to also set the selected to true, but not true, but to value. So we want to also set the value. So let's add that. And now we should be able to move. There we go. So now our animation is playing and we're walking around and it follows the cursor. And when I click, it stops about 15 pixels away. The reason I'm doing this is because when I add more pixels, yeah, let me say one more thing. Sorry, my brain is really scattered today, but another thing, this was from the comments down below. I also realized this from last video. With the groups, instead of doing it in the local scene in the world, what you should have done, and I should have done, is done it here in the actual unit itself. So go to manage units and do it here. So you can go to I've already added it, but you should have the body kinematic. You add it and add the units group. And then, because that way the group it's local to the unit itself. So now when I add a unit, it's automatically there. So I'll put it back in the node. There it is. And so now even if I duplicate it, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It'll still be in that group. The reason why this is actually better, there's two reasons. One, we can just add in a unit without having to duplicate. Two, later on, because we're making an RTS, we're gonna want some sort of way to make units, right? So we're gonna like get wood, gold, etc., whatever, and then we're gonna want to be able to spawn characters. And if our character spawns without being in a group, that's gonna be a problem. So we want to make sure we can spawn it being in a group, right? All right. I've also disconnected the signal. That's why it might look different if that's what you're wondering. But now let's double test that our movement works. So I can now select a bunch of stuff. And then I can only select those three. And yeah, so now our movement works relatively well. You're more than welcome to play around with the distance. You can change it to like 20 or 25 because as you can see, it's a bit weird in the sense that they will keep playing or moving until they get to that position, right? But it's okay. It's kind of a bug, but we'll leave it because it doesn't really matter. But yeah, let's move on. All right, next thing we're gonna do is I thought a lot about the trees, and I don't think we're gonna do tiles for it. The reason being because we want each tree to do certain things. And I think doing a tile map with the trees, it is possible because you can check for a certain tile on the map and then do something with that certain tile. So if it's a tree tile, do something, but it becomes very complicated and there's no reason to do that. You can just have the tree be a separate node in general. So let's just make a body. This will be a static body. We're going to name it tree. We're going to save it. We're going to create a folder for it. Call it world objects. There we go. And I'm going to save that tree here. I'm going to capitalize it though. Tree. And there it is. There's our tree. We want to add a script to it. And then let's go back here. And we're going to add a few things. I think one thing to note is that Tween is now gone. I did not realize this. You can still use Tween, but you have to do it through code now. So let's... I'll be honest, I kind of don't like that. There was a reason why I don't like it, because I'm not gonna go explain too much into it, but basically we couldn't access the tween outside of a certain function. But yeah, I don't like that they removed it too much, but it's okay. So let's add a collision shape. Let's add a area 2D, and then let's drag that out, duplicate the collision, add that, and then give both of them an object. So we're gonna give this one a circle, and then this one a rectangle. And then let's move the circle outside for now. If I search up tree, we should get a few trees. I'm going to use this one, so it looks pretty nice. I'm going to drag it to the top. I'm going to make the collision box fit. So that's going to be our collision box for our tree. This is going to be our area 2D to check for any units. And then in our unit, our area 2D, we'll just rename it to chop area. And then we'll just connect this to body entered. And we'll also do body exited. Oh, it didn't connect. Let's do it one more time. There we go. And then we're also going to add two more things. We're going to add a timer. Then we're also going to add a progress bar. You can add a texture progress bar if you have a texture for it, but we don't. So we're gonna uncheck the percent. We don't want to see it. We're going to go to theme override styles. We're going to give a flat box for both. And then I'm just going to fill it out with a random color that I like for both of them. This one will be like, let's make it greenish. Now let's just do it at, where is it? Value, let's change that to 50 so we can see half-half. And then you can kind of just make it fit the tree. So that's going to be your progress bar for the tree. Okay, let's move that right up above. Let's move the timer below. Okay, let's just do that, sorry. And then in our script, no, one more thing we're going to connect. We're going to connect our timer. So our timeout is going to be connected to our script. We also, keep in mind, okay, so I've decided to make the timer 1. I've decided to do it a certain way for a certain reason. I'll explain it in a second, but what you could do, so we have two options. One, we can make the timer 1 second, and as if our unit is next to the tree, we will keep chopping it down over that duration. If it leaves, then we pause the timer, right? And then you keep going if the unit comes back. That's one way. Another way is to make the timer 1 second, or less than a second if you want. And if there is a tree or a unit inside that tree area, then we'll start the timer and keep playing it as long as there is a unit inside of that area. However, if there are no the units inside that area, we stop the timer. And I'm going to do it that way. So you can do either way. In fact, I would suggest maybe you try it the other way and see if that works. But for now, we're going to do it my way, essentially. So there's a few values we're going to use, or variables. So let's create them. We're going to need variable current value. We're also going to need, do I even use that actually? Let me check. Oh, I do not. Never mind. We're not going to, that was a little while ago. We're going to have total time, which we'll set to 5. And then we'll have variable current time. We're not going to set that. And then we're going to have variable units. This is going to check for how many units we have. And we're going to have 2 unready variables, which are just going to be the things that we created. So we have variable timer, and then we're also going to have variable bar. So we're going to load those 2. So we have the progress bar, and we also have the timer we added. All right, so now we have our timer and our bar. Next thing we're going to do is in our ready function, we're going to want to set the timer or the bar to the max time, right? Not the timer max wait time, but the actual total time, right? So the total time is 5. So we're going to set max value equals to total time. We're also going to say current time equals total time. Because if you want, you can export the total time and change it, and it won't affect the current time. So you only have to change this thing in one spot. So if you want 15, you only have to change it here versus having like 15 here, and et cetera, right? So this will just make our life a little bit easier. All right, and then in our process function, we're going to say if current time is smaller than 0, smaller than or equal to, uh, 0. Then what we'll do is we're going to call a function called chop. No, tree chopped, meaning our tree has been completely chopped. We're done. So let's make that function. We'll pass for now. So this is we're gonna do something at the end once we've actually chopped our tree. All right. So how do we actually get our tree to chop? Well, the first thing we have to do is in our body entered, we have to check if a unit is entering. There's a few different ways to do this. One way to do this is checking the group. You could also check with the name. You can do so many different ways to check this. I'm going to do it with the name. So I'm going to say if unit in body dot name, then what we'll do is say units plus equals 1, and then we will start chopping. I'll do it like this, start chopping. So that's going to also be a function that we're going to need. So let's copy this over and then paste this function. So we need a function called start chopping, and then tree has been chopped. And then in this function, all we're going to do is say timer dot start. I think that is it, right? Yeah, timer dot start. We're just going to start the timer. And then once our timer is started, what are we going to do? Well, every time 1 second has passed, we're going to basically just take our current time minus equals 1 times units. So the reason I'm doing this is because the more units that are in that area, the faster it'll go. You could make this you could adjust this to whatever you want. So you can say divided by 2. It might be a bit weird because you're not work. You would probably have to round it. But for now, I'm just going to do times units because it's going to be a whole number. And then this is the fun part. We're going to create a tween to basically animate the progress bar. So I think this can actually work without the tween. So let's actually try it without the tween. For now, though, let's Q3 once our tree has been chopped. We also want to see. I think this should actually work now. So first of all, let's add our tree. Let's add a node for the world objects. So objects, then we'll add our tree in there. There we go. There's our tree. Let's reload. Okay, let's do 1 for now. So let's go in there. Okay, and it doesn't seem to work. Let's check unit. All right, so now let's debug. Let's see if this is even working. So if it is working, we'll print something. So let's go again. Oh, there we go. I think it might not be working. Oh, it is working, but we're not updating the progress bar. Okay, so you could update the progress bar in the process function. So what we can do is say bar.value equals current time, right? Yeah. Another thing I want to do is go back to unit. I'm actually going to change this to 15 again. No, I'm going to change it to 10. Okay, and then go back to tree. Let's play. Let's see what happens now. So now when I go into it, it'll start clicking, right? Now let's try with 2 units this time. Let's see what happens. It should go a little faster. Yeah, there it is. It's going by 2 basically, right? What we can do, another thing I'm going to do actually, is I'm going to scale this by 2. It's just really small. I'm going to make the area 2D a bit bigger. There we go. Okay, now this does work, but it seems very choppy, right? So instead, we're going to create a tween. And if you don't know what tween is, tween allows us to smoothly animate things, generally. That's what tweens are used for. So to do that, what we're going to do is create a tween. So by saying variable tween equals get tree dot create tween, not timer. And then we're going to call our tween and say, what is it? They have changed it. It used to be interpolate property, but now it's tween property. And the values are a bit different. So yeah, it took me a while to actually get it, but the way they tween is a bit different now. So let me just write it out and then I'll explain what each one does. Current time and then 0.5 and set We'll explain this for now. Okay, so tween property is the same thing as I don't remember what it used to be, but basically we're going to animate something, right? So we're going to take our bar, we're going to take the value. So that's what we're going to animate essentially. So those two things are the things we're going to animate. Now this is asking us, okay, what are we going to animate to? So we want to animate it to the current time, right? Because we've set the current time. So for example, let's look at our progress bar. So when we set up our progress bar, it should be 5 out of 5 technically, right? Because our total time is 5. So first it will be 5. The value is 5, and then the current time will be 4. So we're telling the tween, okay, I want you to animate from 5 to 4, okay, and I want you to take 0.5 seconds doing this, right? Because we want it to be relatively quick. We don't want it to take a second to do this, and then we're going to set the trans to a bunch of different. There's a bunch of different options, but I find either quad or linear probably the best ones for this. You can play around with them. I don't know if bounce is new, but I've never seen it before, and it looked really funny. So let's see what this looks like. First thing we have to do, I already did. Okay, let's see what it looks like. So now it kind of animates it, right? Boop, boop, and then once it's 0, it's gone. Okay, one more thing. Let's test it to see if it works with 2. Yeah, it works with 2. Awesome. So now what we have to do is see what happens when we exit the tree. Well, the first thing we want to do is check if it's a unit, right? So let's copy that. Let's take that out. We don't need to print anything. And then we'll say unit minus equals 1. And then we're going to check for if units is smaller than or equal to 0. And if it is, what we'll do is say timer dot stop. So hold on. So the reason why we don't have to stop it if we are exiting in general is because, okay, if there's 2 units in our tree, so we have 2 units, 2 guys in our tree right here. Let's see, 2 fingers. I still want to continue chopping down the tree even if one leaves. Sorry about that. If one leaves, so now one unit is in the tree, right? So I want to keep chopping, and the reason this will work is because we're only multiplying the 1 times unit down here in the timer timeout. So this is the reason I did it this way, because now we can make it so that we chop at a certain speed essentially. So this can be our speed. You could actually here make it more obvious. We'll say chop speed equals 1 times units, and then down here, oh my god, please, we'll say current time minus equal chop speed, right? So you can adjust the chop speed formula to whatever you want, but essentially this is telling us the more units we have around the tree, the faster it'll go. So later on, we can make it so that there's certain units that are good at chopping trees versus units that aren't, whatever, right? So we can kind of complicate it a bit. Okay, one last thing we're going to do is I'm going to create a new folder called global, and then go to global. I'm going to create a new script, call it game, and this is going to be our singleton. So let's auto load it. So here, global game add. So this is now our singleton. It is a global script that we can basically access anywhere, and let's create a variable called wood. Yeah, let's capitalize it and say it's equal to, I can't type, equals 0. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go into my UI. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to go into my UI. I'm going to add it. But in our UI, I'm going to delete the camera because we no longer need that. In our panel, I'm going to take the layout, reset that so it's invisible. I'm going to go to the UI, and I'm going to add a label. And I'm going to add a script for their UI. And then in our process function, I'm just going to do, let's auto load our label. So let's say variable on ready variable label equals label. There we go. So now we're just going to get our label dot text and set it to wood. And say wood is equal to string game dot wood, and this should give us 0, right? Because wood is set to 0. So now let's adjust this in our wood. So let's go to our tree, where's our tree, and say when our tree is chopped, well, we're just going to add to our wood. So we're going to say game dot wood plus equals 1. And you can add how many ever you want. If you want to make it random, you can. You can. I'm just going to add 1 for now. Okay. Now what we can do is go into our tree and see what happens. Let's actually add more. So it drops down faster, and there we go. Our wood is now equal to 1. Awesome. And that's it. So I hope you guys have learned something. Let's make this current again. I'm not sure why it did that actually, but it makes the camera uncurrent. So there we go. But yeah, so now we can chop our tree and add wood to our game. So we have a pretty cool game. It's pretty neat. There is a different way to make sure that our player is not animating as long. Like aside from this, I'll do it next time. So we'll do that next time. We'll actually add a lot more animations into our player because there are actually quite a bit of animations in this guy. So let's check it out real quick before we end the video. Let's go to characters, champions. This guy kind of looks like he's chopping a tree, which is actually why I chose this one. I'm not sure if any of the other ones look like it. Yeah, no, they kind of all look like warriors. So yeah, we'll have this guy actually animate as if he's chopping the tree. We'll also change the interface slightly so that way it'll tell us if we're going to chop the tree down. Oh, okay, I didn't mean to do that, but yeah. So we're gonna add more complexity to this, but for now, this is pretty good. We have a tree chopping system, which is pretty neat. Yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys now know how to use Tween with Godot 4. It's not too complicated. It's similar, but it's not the exact same. So it's Tween property. I know there's also Tween dot interpolate value. Yeah, it used to be interpolate property, but now it's interpolate value, and there's Tween property. That's the one that we want. Anyways, yeah, no, I hope you learned something about Tween. I hope you learned about timers. I hope you learned why I decided to do the timer this way and not have a timer of 10 seconds, for example, and say, okay, we're just going to pause, start, etc. Yeah, no, I hope you guys learned something, etc. I'm just repeating myself. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If you did, consider subscribing. I would appreciate it a lot. Leave a comment down below if you learned something. If you didn't, let me know anyways. Let me know if you guys have any requests. If you want any specific requests, you can join my Discord and ask me directly. I'm pretty active on Discord usually, so I can answer any questions if you need help. I would like to build a community on my Discord. That would be awesome. I would love to see people helping each other in our Discord. I want to see you guys help each other as well. So I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I'm not really sure where this channel will go. It's growing, but it's not too big yet. So I would like to see. I think learning starts with you. So if you want to learn how to do game dev, try to join a community. There are so many different communities out there that you can join, and they can help you. I'll promote my own. Obviously, it's not very big. There's like a handful of people who are in it. But I'm in there. If you need my help, I'm always there. Anyways, thanks for listening to my rant. That's it. Again, subscribe, comment, share, like, and consider pledging to my Patreon as well, I guess. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.